Hi there. I just want to talk about something that plays a major part in my life. And I believe if I share this, it will help understand why I view things the way that I do. Um, and just give understanding to why I think the way that I do. Even when it goes against the grain, even it goes against what folks around you think. You might not be on the same page. We might not be on the same page. I mean, some of it might come just from my faith. And that's what I'm going to speak about today. I been having a struggle to actually get to this point. I was supposed to make this video yesterday, and I just couldn't do it. And as I laid in bed last night, I understood why. And sorry about the glare and all that. That'll all get better through time as as time goes by. But when I was a little boy, well, my family, we used to go to church, like a lot of us did back then in the 70s and whatnot. Go to the Catholic Church. We're Puerto Ricans, so the churches used to get packed. I mean, with my mom, her kids, and my auntie and her kids. That's half a church right there, folks. But anyway, that's how it was. But when I was a young child, 7, 8, maybe 9, there was a young man that was the age of probably my brother, my oldest brother, who got me like by 9 years. Pedro was going to a church that was a Pentecostal church. And they used to have a van, they used to come around and pick you up and whatnot. So that's how I got introduced. My sister, my brother, and a bunch of other kids. Anyway, I kept going. And there were times where I would get up alone, 8 or 9 maybe, or maybe even 7. I would get up, get dressed. We lived on the last floor. We lived on the last floor. You heard? The 6th floor. Walk down, I don't know, 8 o'clock in the morning, whatever it was. Wait in front for the van by myself. Go to service, come back, and upstairs I went. So fast forward, and Pedro tells some of us that he was in charge of kind of, to get us to church and whatnot. Call the church, hey, I got 6 that are going to go, whatever. And he says that Julio, which was the associate pastor of the church, had told him that 2 kids were going to be blessed. That God told him there was going to be 2 kids that were going to be blessed. It was this other kid who was older than I. I think he was already in his teens. And I. Okay? And I mean, I was the type of kid, for example, my Uncle Tito and I got into a discussion at that age. And I was discussing a stand, and I went and I told him, well, the Bible says, and I began to recite scripture so I could take a stand. And hold on, guys. take care of some stuff here. So, excuse me. So, where was I at? He used to think it was two of us. Yeah, so I was that type of kid. I was the type of kid that used to go to Graham, stand there with a sign, and they gave us these little cards with slip-ins where you could put a dime or a nickel or a quarter. I was out there. I was that little kid. So, uh, while in that period, one time I was sleeping. We lived on the sixth floor, like I said. In the back, there's a window that if you look out of, you could see there was a lot there, and behind it was South First. There was a bed right there. And I was sleeping, and my mom and my oldest sister were standing by my bedside. I had, I guess what would be a dream. In this dream, I saw what seemed like the best way to explain it was like a tornado, and it seemed to be far away, but there was a light in it, and I could see it's there was like a swirl, like a rotation, real tight rotation, and it just kept getting closer, and the closer it got, the warmer I felt, and it was just seemingly I was watching this as it was going into me, right? And I woke up. And when I did, my sister and my mom were standing by my bed, staring at me, smiling. And my oldest sister says, "Why were you smiling? You just had a big old smile." I'm not sure if I tried to explain it or not. I do know this. I remember this. I got out the bed. I went to that window and I looked out at the sky because it was daylight out. I don't remember what time it was, but I know it was a nice day out. And I looked at the sky and I thought, I know that was you. And let me tell you, God, in His grace, in His mercy, in His knowing it all, knew that child right there is going to need all of that to survive, to reach what I have for him. We're talking about God, a God that knew me, called me by name before the beginning of everything. The one that created it all. I always have two questions. And I'm not going to give a whole debate or a theological thing. I'm not going to go through all of that. But I always say, when it comes to the Big Bang Theory, how could you get something from nothing? So those two things that collided, where did they come from? Okay, I believe in the Big Bang Theory. I believe God created the Big Bang Theory. And the whole thing about we coming from ape, my question has always been, when was the last time we saw an ape become a human being? When was the last time? Did they just stop? Was it a one-time deal? Anyway, so that happens. Shortly thereafter that, and I spoke about this about a year ago, I'm playing outside, just like all little boys and girls do in the summertime. Somebody hits the ball. I did. I don't remember. I run across the street. There's a Beetle Volkswagen coming. It hits me. I fly in the air. I can see everything come below me. I land. I jump right back up. People coming. Shoo. Hey, there's kids on the street, da da da. And I went to the man. And I remember he had a white shirt and a tie. He was a white man, I believe. He was nicely dressed and whatnot. And I told him, hey, I'm totally fine. Just leave. I said, I am totally fine. Just leave. I was more concerned about him than anything else, to be honest with you. I told him, hey, but I guess that they rushed me away, to see if I was okay, but I was fine. Sure enough, after that day, later on that day, I'm sure, I started thinking, now, okay, because around that period was the time, that I was told I was going to be blessed. So my little mind was thought, now, if I'm supposed to be blessed, why am I getting hit by a car? And I was like, I don't think this is going to work for me. Not realizing that I got hit, I flew in the air, landed. I was never a big person. I was a small little kid also. And I got up like, no, and I didn't have a scratch, nothing. And I walked away from the church. Okay. Fast forward. Jeez. Wow. 40 years? No, because it's been about 20 years already. 30 years probably. Let's give it that number. Yeah, that's a good number to give. I might have been in my 40s. But God sustained me through 5 overdoses, I think, or 6. In positions where guns got pulled out. I got shot on my leg. And again, just putting myself in really bad positions. Okay? Now we fast forward. I'm in Miami. By this point of my life, I had went from Miami, from the Brooklyn, where I grew up at, 89, moved, went to Miami, was in Miami till 98, till word on the street was that the feds were asking about me. I had just came out of jail. When I'm walking out of jail, there was a trustee there that I knew from the streets. And the trustee said, yo, they busted so-and-so. I saw when he came through here last night. I said, for what? He said, you know that thing. I said, all right. And I'm like, okay, and he said, they're asking about you. I said, word? Me? And he said, yeah, sir, you. I said, well, okay. Next day, I was in Atlanta, Georgia. Stepping down in Georgia. So, I went to Georgia. All of that. Then, went to Texas. My sister had moved to Texas during all that. So, I had been to Texas. And from Texas, I went back to Miami for the first time to actually stay for a while. Well, Raul was older now. I didn't run like I used to. All my connections were gone. I left Miami in 98. I think this was like 2005. Yeah, about 2005, 2006. And we all know how things change. back when I was over there, I was into like the boosting. That's what I did. And I got a whole lot of stories to tell about that. But I went to Georgia, Texas, back to Miami. And I started doing what again? I started getting high. There was times I was sober, times I would be getting high. I went like that for years. So I started getting high in Miami again. And it was a struggle. I mean, I was struggling big time. I had a roof over my head, obviously. I was with mom and whatnot. But the street life, I was like, can't do this anymore. So one day I get up. I'm dope sick. I go to I can't remember the name of the supermarket to save my life. Anyway, it's like about 9 o'clock in the morning, yo. I go in there, boost, come out, sell it. I'm in the Overtown. People that know. Overtown. I sold it. I went to Overtown. The Cubans over there also. The black Cubans, like African Cubans. And I copped. Did what I had to do. I'm feeling better. Boom, boom. I'm on the grind. The little grind there is. I go again, do what I have to do, come up again. I go cop. Things were so bad, it's like I get $15, boom, I'm out there. It was like that, yo. Like that bad. So I think about later that in the morning, it was almost noon. I'm on my way back to the dope hole. I got the money in my pocket. I got my works, my money, all of that. I walk over there. You're walking down the street. You make a right, the second house over. That's where the hole is. I'm in the middle of the long street. And all of a sudden, I just stopped. Right in the middle of my tracks, I just stopped. And I looked around and I went back from where I came from. And at the corner, there's a bus stop. This is Northeast 2nd Avenue, something to that effect. Or 4th, something to that effect. Anyway, I sit on the bus stop. The bus comes. I take the bus to the train to the Tri-Rail. I go up toward West Palm Beach. I get off somewhere. I can't remember where it was now. And there's a hospital there that I had heard about. So I could do, I was like, this ain't working. I'm tired of being sick. So I checked in for 5 days. I come out. There's a friend of mine named Doc. Now, everything I'm about to tell you, there's people that could stand up today and say, yeah, that happened. I saw that. They were there. I called Dot and I'm like, hey, I'm down here, I'm thinking about going back up. She said, hey, I got a place for you to stay. I got a room. I said, cool. I go to Georgia. I'm there and August, it was August, the beginning of August sometime, or in the middle. And I'm there and like the third day of being there, I'm sitting on the patio. Dot is inside. And it was crazy, yo. It's like I woke up. It's like I'm sitting there and I'm looking, and all of a sudden it dawned on me. I'm back in Atlanta. And I started thinking, why am I here? I started thinking, I really ain't got nobody here. Okay? Two people. My nephew and Doc. I said, but my old girlfriend, she's gone. You know, the one that was really taking care of me, she's gone. You know, there's a lot of people that I ran with that I don't know where they're at. I don't got phone numbers. I'm like, why am I here? And then I started catching what I know now to be an anxiety attack. And my heart just started going. And I walk inside, and Dot looks at me, and she's like, you all right? I say, yeah. And I start pacing the floor. I'm walking back and forth, and she's looking at me like, are you all right? And the only thing I could say was, why am I here? Why did I come here? And she's looking at me like, what do you mean? And we prayed about it. We prayed about it. And that went away. I said, cool. That night, I went to bed. And I laid in bed. And I just started talking to God. I remember saying, I am so sorry that all the blessings, all the gifts that you've given me, that I've done nothing with them. I'm sorry, that I wasn't a good son, be a father the way I should have been, and I just started crying, and I fell asleep. I just fell asleep. Let me tell you, when I got up the next morning, I didn't crawl out of bed. It's as if I just leapt off of the bed. And when my feet landed, it was like somebody went and snapped my back. I felt like somebody just came and took a boulder off of my back. I stood there and I started moving my back like, wow, like this is weird. Like, this is odd. So I go to open the door to the bedroom, and who's walking by me? Dot to the bathroom. And she looks up at me because Dot, Dot's probably like about 4'8", 4'6". God gave her that name way back when. But anyway, she looked up and she said this. She said, oh my God, look at you. I said, what? She said, your face, you're shining like the sun. I said, really? She said, yeah. Now, I knew I was feeling different. I didn't, okay. Let me tell you how fast God moves when things happen. At the same time, the one number I did have was to a lady I had dated. Okay? My wife. I called her. Listen to how God works. I called her job. Okay? By chance, her daughter answers the phone. The second she heard my voice, she said, Raul, because it had been years since I had spoken. I said, hey, Sharita. I said her name. And we start talking, going back. And she's like, well, my mom ain't here. She took some time off. I'll let her know you called, da-da-da-da. Her mom, which turned out to be my wife, had taken time off to herself to get closer to God in her quest to find a husband at that same period of time. I called whatever. We were happy to see each other. Now I'm walking on a different plane, yo. I have this pep on my step. I have this peace about me that surpasses all understanding. Well, during that period, I got news that my sister from Miami, my older sister, something came up in X-rays, something about the possibility of a cancer, this and that. I cried on the shoulder of what turned out to be my wife, and I hit my knees and I prayed. And let me tell you, I got up and I was like, "This is a done deal, partner. It's all good." Within days of that, and again, there's people that could testify to this. I went to a restaurant in downtown Atlanta called the Corner Bakery, which I was one of the first staff members when they first opened. I had a career for that company. I trained a dude that turned out that he was a manager. I used to help train managers. And this was years later. I go back and I see James. He's like, "Wow, Raul, it's been years." And we start talking. Old boy looks at me and says, "There's something different about you." Old boy starts crying about something that he's going with his wife, whatever, da da da. And he's asking me to pray for him in the middle of lunch hour in the restaurant that he's managing. You know what's crazy? From that moment, if you backtrack it, about a week and a half, 2 weeks before that, I was behind the dumpster shooting dope. I went to a job all around the same time, I went to a job. I get dressed. Dot tells me, "Where you going?" I said, "I'm going to go get a job." She said, "Where?" I said, "I don't know where." Now, where Dot lived, you could walk to Buckhead. I mean, where she lived, I was truly impressed. Because Buckhead is super expensive. But she got right at the edge of it. You could walk to the train, all the restaurants around there, you name it, it's all good. I went not there, I went toward the Brookhaven, which is like one train station up. The first place I went. Now, never mind you, I worked in the restaurant business for years, been a manager, trained managers, traveled through some parts of the country as I opened up and helped train staff, did all of that. I stepped in there and I said, "Hey, I'll take anything. Do you have a dishwashing job?" I just wanted to get in. Him and I sit down. From a dishwasher, I walked out of there with 40 hours at, I think it was 9:50, 10 back then, which was good, just like that. And I walked in there just to be a dishwasher. Okay, now, one day, about 3, 4 months after this, let me tell you, I'm just gonna go on a little bit more about that. I would be walking down, oh, I got a story, you guys gonna laugh. I would be walking down the street and I could feel the presence of God, the Spirit of the Lord, like of God right next to me. It's like if I was having a conversation with a human being or a physical human. That's how it was. I walked around with the biggest smile in my face. Let me tell you what happened. This, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I am. And there's a preacher, which I'm sure some of y'all heard the name of, called Creflo Dollar. Creflo Dollar, to many, unfortunately or fortunately, is known as a prosperity preacher. You know, 2 jets and all that type of stuff, which I don't agree with. But at that time, I didn't agree with it then either. But anyway, In the middle of the night, I just started getting these, like, um, like a vision kind of, or an idea, but it was seems to be so well put together that I was like, and I was like, well, I know I don't have the finances to do that. And in my heart, I don't know why this man's name came up. The sun comes up, and I'm dressed to the nines, kind of, and it's raining outside. A gray fall day with rain. It was one of those. My wife tells me, "Oh, where are you going?" I said, "I'm gonna go meet with Creflo Dollar." And she just looked at me like, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna go meet with Creflo Dollar." She said, "Raul." I said, "Well, let me explain." And she just looked at me, looked down at me. Well, she ain't that much taller than me, but she was like, "If that's what you think God called you to do, then go ahead." So I went over there, whatever, to make the long story short. Never met Creflo Dollar. I mean, they asked me, because he wasn't there, supposedly, well, do you want us to pass a message? I was like, no, I don't think that. I was like, if this is the case, then I guess that I was wrong. But I'm not going to tell somebody else what I think God told me to tell another man. I ain't going to do that. So I just walked away. But what I also learned that from me is that whatever God calls me to do, hey, I'm there. As long as nobody tells me to strap a bomb to myself, we're all good, baby. That's right. So, uh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, when I gave my testimony, and this ain't to brag again, this is just to show how God works. When they baptize you, they have a pool type. Well, the one we have at our church, that's made out of glass. So they'll let you speak for a couple of seconds. Anybody were to ask my wife, she'll tell you that when Raul gave a quick testimony, which was only all about God, everybody got up and stood up and clapped. Yeah. Okay, so that happens. We fast forward, my mom's having a birthday. Okay. The planning is taking place. We are in Orlando, Florida. A bunch of us just showed up. It wasn't for my mom's birthday. I can't remember for what it was. I think it was a family, like a gathering of some sort. But a bunch of us were there. And they started talking about my mom's birthday coming up and what the plans are. Now, obviously, the guys, like myself, don't really pay attention to none of that. The women do all that. We just show up when you tell us to and do whatever you tell us to. At least that's how I am. So we get back from that trip. And again, there's people here that will say, yeah, I saw that. That did happen. We get back from the trip. At that time, I used to always take time by myself in the bedroom, door locked, a soft light on. I would pray. I would read for hours. That's what I would do. So a few days after getting back, I'm in the room, I'm praying, and all of a sudden, I got this word. And it's hard to explain this. There's no words to when God speaks. I'm going to touch on that, but there's just so many different ways. And when it happens, there's no way because it's in the spiritual. It does manifest in the physical. But so I came out that room and I looked at Audrey and I said, somebody that's supposed to show up on mom's birthday ain't gonna make it. And she looked at me like, wow. I said, I think somebody's gonna die soon. Because somebody ain't gonna make it to mom's birthday. It was somebody that was supposed to be there, ain't gonna be there, basically. I automatically assumed one of my brothers and sisters. And for months. And for months. No. And for months, all I did was pray for my brothers and sisters, day in and day out. That's all I did. That's all I did. And then we've Thanksgiving Day comes around, and about 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, the phone rings. About 4, and my sister's husband had passed away, David. And I remember the phone rang. I took it to the bathroom, turned on the light. My nephew, Miguel, was the one that told me. And I remember just staring at the mirror as I'm talking. And I remember I put my head up against my forehead, and I was like, oh my God, Jasmine. And I just started crying. Crying. I go to the bedroom and I sit on the edge of the bed. Audrey's like, what happened? I told her. And then she just put her arm around me and she said, remember, God told you somebody wasn't going to show up. Yeah, that happened. Anyway, this is going to be part 1. I got to attend to some stuff here. And I'll continue from here. God bless. Thank you.